last night I could definitely feel the baby moving, like really like scraping inside my belly, but nothing really major, just Braxton Hicks or so I thought. And been peeing throughout early morning, nothing. And then just before I had my breakfast, went to pee again. Wanna join in? Went to pee again, and there's actually bloody show. We just actually don't want to get into any details, but it's mucousy discharge with brown tinge of color on it. Other than that, no contractions yet, but we'll see if contractions gonna start sooner or later. So when I got pregnant the second time, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Was I got really scared because instantly I just remembered the ordeal that I went through the first time I gave birth, and I was really scared about having to go through all that again. Apart from the fact that the pregnancy for me isn't always easy, because I do get the severe type of pregnancy sickness, but anyway, that's a different story. So anyway, I got really anxious about that. That's probably why I'm doing this video, is because in order for me to prepare myself for the childbirth the second time, I started watching some of the labor and birth stories here on YouTube, and that actually helped me a lot to get over my anxiety from the first childbirth experience that I had, because most of the stories that I've seen on YouTube, they were all so positive, and it just inspired me and helped me be more positive as well. That is actually the reason why I'm actually making this video, is hopefully because I found some of your stories helpful. Hopefully this story as well would be helpful to you in some way if you're expecting a child soon. So yeah, I just wanted to say that before I move on to the next story, which is a more positive experience, I am happy to say. So for the second pregnancy, the labor started again at around 39 weeks, and again I was scheduled for induction, but again the baby decided to come out earlier than the scheduled induction. So this one, the labor, unlike the first one where I just suddenly felt some kind of pain, this was a more gradual kind of labor, I would say. I think for like at least a couple of weeks before the actual true labor started, I was experiencing a lot of Braxton Hicks contractions. Like, it's not painful at all. It's just that, you know, you're sitting there and then all of a sudden your belly hardening all of a sudden for a few seconds, and then it'll stop. Then it was just happening for a couple of weeks. Like, I would experience that all of a sudden, oh, my belly's hardening, but then that's it, and it go away. It's nothing totally consistent. No pain whatsoever, no discomfort. It doesn't affect me in any way. Like, I can get on with things even though my belly felt hard. But like I said, the Braxton Hicks contractions were happening for like a couple of weeks, and then one morning at 39 weeks, I went to the loo and, you know, peed and wiped. And when I wiped, I don't want to give too much information, but yeah, there was like, you know, brown there, and I knew that it was bloody show. I wasn't alarmed because it was brown. If it was like bright red, then that would be alarming, but it was brown. And I sort of got excited that morning. I even vlogged it. After that, I just went normal with my breakfast, usual routine, cleaning up a bit and all that stuff. But at the same time, I was like excitedly waiting if I was gonna get the proper labor contractions yet, but nothing happened until like lunchtime. I did have another Braxton Hicks contraction, which was a lot stronger than what I had been experiencing the past couple of weeks. And when actually it happened that lunchtime, I was excited because I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm having stronger Braxton Hicks. Maybe this is gonna keep going, and then this is it. But it actually went away. And when it went away, it was like, oh, that's okay. I'll just, I have an appointment at the antenatal clinic anyway that afternoon, so just see what happens there. So when I got there, they did the usual, ultrasound and all that stuff, and I think there was something about my fluid in the placenta was like more than before or something like that. I can't really remember. So they decided to schedule me for an induction, and they also did a membrane sweep, but they never really told me anything else, like if I was gonna go into labor anytime soon or anything like that. They just, oh, okay, you had a bloody show, that's okay. It was just like nothing. But anyway, when I got home, I was a bit worried about the fluid thing, although they told me it was just probably a complication of my gestational diabetes. It was really nothing to worry about or anything, but I still wanted to know, so I went through my notes, which didn't really give me any more information about the fluid thing, but I did find something interesting in the notes. They didn't mention it to me when I was at the clinic, but I found out that I was already 3 centimeters dilated that afternoon when they did the membrane sweep. So I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I'm already 3 centimeters dilated, so maybe I am about to go into labor like really soon, because I had a bloody show, getting Braxton Hicks, 3 centimeters dilated, you do the math. So I was like pretty excited, but then until it was already time for bed, nothing was really happening. So we just went to sleep as normal. But at around 12:30 or 12 midnight, 12:30, my husband and I woke up. We were just hungry. Well, actually, I woke up and then he woke up, and then he was like, what's wrong? I was like, oh, nothing, I'm hungry. And then he said, oh yeah, I'm hungry too. So he just got something to eat. And then after about an hour, I started feeling Braxton Hicks contractions again, and I was like, oh, I'm having Braxton Hicks contractions. And it's like, oh, maybe you're about to go into labor. And I was like, nah, maybe it might, well, it could, but maybe it might suddenly stop again, as it usually did the past few days. And so yeah, the Braxton Hicks were, this time around, were pretty consistent and were a lot stronger than what it was. So when it was happening for like about an hour already, I decided to time it. And when I timed it, the contractions, the interval between contractions were like between 5 and 7 minutes. So I thought, okay, let me see if it's gonna be that consistent throughout the hour. So I monitored it for an hour, and yeah, it was really consistently happening between 5 and 7 minutes apart. So when that happened, at the same time I was timing the duration of each contraction, and it was actually getting longer and longer. So I realized that okay, I think true labor is going to start like really soon. So we made our phone calls and all that stuff, and I didn't call the maternity unit just yet. So I waited for another hour. In that hour, everything intensified. The interval between contractions were getting shorter than 5 minutes, and then the duration of each contraction was already from 40 seconds to 1 minute per contraction. And at the same time, the intensity, the sensation was not painless anymore. It got to a point where I was needing to breathe through the contractions already, because I was already feeling pain to help me get through it. And so after that hour, I decided, okay, I think it's time to call the maternity unit. And then when I called them, I was actually talking to them, and then I wasn't able to talk properly anymore through contractions, so they told me to go in already. And so when we got there, the contractions were like really close together already. It's like probably like just 2 minutes apart, so it was already very painful and difficult, but I was still able to handle it without any pain medication. But it was really painful, like, and I was already anticipating whether I should ask for some kind of pain relief actually. But when they checked me, luckily all my vitals were normal this time around. There was nothing wrong with my blood pressure, and when they checked the dilation, I was already 8 centimeters dilated. So I was like, what? I'm already 8 centimeters dilated? That actually gave me more courage to try and manage the pain without any strong kind of pain relief. They brought me to the labor and delivery room, and again, just let the labor progress that way, because I was already 8 centimeters. There was really no need to consider induction or anything like that. But because the pain was getting really bad, they offered me gas and air if I wanted to try that. And I said it didn't work for me the first time, but I really wanted to stay away from the epidural, because the epidural was actually one of the reasons why the first childbirth went complicated. Though what happened to me was like one of the risks of having an epidural, so I didn't want that episode to repeat. So I was trying my best to stay away from the epidural this time around. So I agreed to try the gas and air again. Again, you inhale the gas while having the contraction, and again the sensation of like lightheadedness, you feel that. But this time it actually worked, because it actually did take the edge of the pain. Like, you're still feeling the pain, but it sort of takes the edge of it, so you're able to go through the contraction a little bit more easily. It's not, well, still not easy, but the edge isn't there anymore, so it's not as painful. So I just kept on doing that until finally I was 10 centimeters dilated already. When it was already time to push, like, I have to say, I still found it difficult to push. I don't know, maybe I didn't know how to push. But they told me to just, try to push as if you were trying to poo. So push as if you were trying to poo. Go on. And it took some time before I started to like get it. It was so painful and really difficult that it got to a point where I think I was like, oh, I was getting so frustrated that I was like saying, I can't do this anymore or something like that. Also because even though they were saying, keep pushing because we can see the head of the baby, I wasn't feeling the head of the baby. There was no feeling. I mean, I could feel all the contractions and everything, but I couldn't feel the baby. Like, where's the baby? So I was getting frustrated and I was like thinking like, this isn't working. But thankfully the people that were there with me, the midwives, my husband, my mother-in-law, they were all very supportive, and they just kept on encouraging me to keep going and keep pushing. And so I just tried my best to not let them down, and I just tried to keep pushing even though I felt so drained and so much in pain that I felt like I wanted to give up. Oh, by the way, when I started pushing, my water hasn't broken yet. And so it was so funny because like I said, I was using gas and air, right? There was a few bits of the whole experience that I couldn't really remember, but I did remember seeing the midwives put on their plastic type aprons on them, and I was like, oh, I must be like, giving birth really soon because they're putting on those things. And I knew that they were getting ready for something, and then all of a sudden, okay, they were making me push, and then all of a sudden I heard something go and I was like really shocked. It was like, what was that sound? And then it was like a pop and then splattering of water everywhere. It was so loud. And if I wasn't in so much pain, I would probably have laughed because it was just an explosion of water everywhere. In my first childbirth experience, my water didn't break that way because they just broke my water manually on the bed, and all I felt was like there's a gush of water on the bed. But this time around, it happened so naturally, like it popped and then everywhere. And then when I opened my eyes, the next thing I knew was like I could see them cleaning my water from everywhere. It was just so funny. So anyway, my water broke that way. It was amazing because I didn't have that experience before, and I've really only read and heard or about it, that kind of thing happening, and it happened to me. So that was awesome. So after that, obviously it's time to push for the baby to come out because the water's broken and all that. And at the time it felt like an eternity, but they were actually telling me that it was only for a few minutes that this whole thing happened. But for me, while it was happening, it felt like I was doing it for hours and hours. That's why it got to a point where I felt like so frustrated that I felt like I wanted to give up because it felt like it was never gonna end, and I was just so exhausted and so much pain that I felt that I couldn't do it. And then they were saying that they can see the head, but I couldn't feel anything. And I was like, I thought they were lying to me or something. And then finally, fast forward, I felt something round like a ball down there, pushing down, like right up there, like you can really feel it. When I felt that encouraged me to push properly and more than I've ever pushed before. Even though it was so difficult, like it felt like I was gonna pass out from pushing, I still pushed. And then I felt the head go out of me, and they said, yes, the head's out. And I knew they were telling me the truth because I could feel it. And then they said, okay, rest for a second, but you have to push even harder because you have to push the shoulders now and the rest of the body of the baby. So by that point, I knew that the baby was in a difficult position because the head was out but the body was still inside me. So I was more determined than ever to push, and I did. I pushed and pushed and pushed. And when she came out, it was just an amazing feeling of relief because the pain just totally left me. And then seeing her right in front of me, it was like, oh my god, I pushed you out of me. It was just an amazing and wonderful experience. Like when I had my first baby, obviously it was an amazing and wonderful experience, but how it all happened wasn't ideal. Obviously it was complicated, but being able to experience the normal kind of delivery, it was amazing. I wouldn't say that it's easy. It wasn't easy for me. It was difficult, but once it's done, it felt amazing and you feel good. For some reason, your body, you don't feel ill. Like I felt ill the first time because of all the epidural and all that stuff. But this time around, I might still feel a little bit lightheaded from the gas, but I felt like all I needed was a little bit of rest and I could get up and walk. That's how I felt like. And yeah, so she came out, they were cleaning her and she cried and she's beautiful and perfect. And then after that, I still had to push a little bit more for the placenta to come out. Actually, I didn't really have to push. The midwife just told me, you know what, just cuff. So I cuffed and then it just went out, and that was just a piece of cake. No big deal. I did have a couple of secondary cares, but they were very minor as opposed to the tears that the forceps delivery caused me in the first childbirth. This one was just piece of cake, was just a couple of stitches, and they gave me the baby. I was able to breastfeed her already for an hour, and then after that I was able to get up and walk to the shower and get a shower on my own. That was it. And I did have to stay for one night. I went home the next day, and I have to say I was a little sore, but I was able to function normally and recovered really quickly. And yeah, it was a really good experience. It was like a really textbook type of childbirth process. I thought that I'd only be reading about it and hearing about it, but I am so happy that I was able to actually experience a natural childbirth, well, apart from the gas and air. And I have to say, kudos to my mom and all the moms out there, because no matter what kind of childbirth experience you have, childbirth is no picnic. Whether you do it naturally, with an epidural, you have C-section or whatever, no matter how you do it, delivering a baby out into this world is not an easy task. So kudos to all the moms out there. It's an amazing job to accomplish. And so those are my labor and birth experiences. I hope that they will be helpful to some of you in whatever way, and good luck to those of you who are about to give birth. And I hope that the experiences I've shared would give you some courage and positivity, and yeah, I just hope that it helps some of you out there, just like some of your stories helped me. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye! Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and if you like this one, give it a thumbs up and share.